So, after researching big data, I've come to the conclusion that I think that it's mostly a negative thing in our society. That's my all around opinion about it after doing all of the research. But to go into detail about the questions asked about it, I would say that some pros of big data would be they're helpful to research endless categories. And when thinking about the question of could it help create better tools, services, and public goods, and could it help understand online communities and political movements? The answer is yes. So these are some things that kind of prove big data to have benefits in the world for certain categories, but it's more of how it is gone about and how it's used, or if it's abused, or if the person who is in control of researching this data is using it in a negative or positive way. So cons would be, we could look at the question of does it create privacy incursions in an invasive market, and is it used to track protesters and suppress speech, which from the research it seems that yes, big data can create privacy issues and can be invasive. There's a lot of examples of this through Facebook and big technology companies invading people's privacy, and this getting exposed and talked about. It enables invasions of privacy, decreased civil freedoms, increased state and corporate control, and large data sets from internet sources can be unreliable as well, and these errors are unavoidable when multiple data sets are used together. So moving on to the current uses of big data by technology companies. The research showed that it's used in areas as diverse as cancer research, terrorism, and climate change. An example which was discussed under the topic of the practice of apophenia would be patterns where non-exist data mining techniques showed a relation between the changes in the S&P 500 stock index and butter production. So it's kind of showing a pattern that was established by big data technology companies, and it's kind of just interesting to think about how much information they can get and what they can use it for, and especially when they have so much power with technology nowadays. They can definitely use it to their benefit in a negative or positive way once again. How do I see the future of social media? Black or bright mirror? So I said more of a black mirror if it continues at the rate it is. According to the article, have smartphones destroyed a generation by Genome Twang. The more time teens spend looking at screens, the more likely they are to report symptoms of depression. And she talks about iGen teens, which range from kids born from 1995 forward. She continues on to just talk about how kids are more lonely the more social media they're on. Could the users of social web influence in the future of social media? They can, but there are cases in which certain users are only participant. This was shown in some research that only some participate, such as in Twitter, only 40% of active users sign in just to listen rather than to participate. So it's not only the users, it's more of the bigger companies to worry about. How can big data help in building up a brighter future? According to the article, big data is people. Big data will lead to endless possibilities if it's actually big data. So a quote from this article is that data can, if properly handled and analyzed, speak for themselves. Many resort to definitions that stress the three V's. A data set is a big data if it qualifies as huge in volume, velocity, and variety. And it just continues on to describe how big data is actually proven to be true, and if it's in the right hands and used properly.